Join me on the roller coaster ride that was my first major journey of redefinition. How I held on to the parts of myself that I liked and changed the rest, and how I continue to do it over and over. The first part of the ride was filled with loneliness. Then came the adjustment, and the final stop on this metamorphosis was becoming comfortable in this new woman that I chose to be. For me, moving forward means redefining who you are at every new stage of your life. It's the only way to overcome the challenges that come with it. Every stage will require a new version of you. So moving forward requires moving differently. One of the first questions I'm usually asked in an interview is, so tell me, who's Ashley? Or tell me a little bit more about yourself. And I then go into my rehearsed spiel about how I'm a hardworking, committed leader, blah, blah, blah. But what I really want to say is, it changes. It changes. One of my favorite things about being human is that at any second, I can decide to be a completely different person. It's a right I exercise quite often, actually. You see, society would have us to believe that being indecisive is taboo. Leaders need to be quick decision makers, we're often told. But let me tell you, while this may be true for business, as a person, change your mind as much as you want to. Change who you are. Redefine. Define again or differently. See, my biggest change thus far happened when I packed my bags and left my tiny little island of sunshine and moved to the land of opportunity and hope. For many immigrants, this is one of the things we heard repeatedly about the United States of America. We saw it on the television screens and then dreamed of the fairy tale-esque life we'd live while here. Well, this brings us to the first stop on the roller coaster ride: loneliness. Getting on the ride itself. Moving at 16 was hard. Have you met any 16-year-olds? It's the years of drastic changes to both mind and body, and usually the time where parents are left confused and feeling like they're walking on eggshells, wondering if their kid even likes them anymore. And I decided, you know what, let's just throw moving to a whole nother country and a new school in there while we're at it. And my world turned upside down. I knew no one. I missed my family, and all of a sudden, no one understood me when I spoke normally. You know the part of the ride where you feel sick to your stomach? Yeah, this was it. Many of you felt the same way during the pandemic, kind of like Nemo when he got lost, like a fish out of water. Now, according to the American Psychology Association, isolation can lead to depression, poor sleep, impaired executive function, mental health issues. The list goes on. And basically, it's all really bad, and it has negative physical and mental effects that can impact and cascade into every area of your life. And while many of you got a taste of this for the last year and a half, immigrants have been dealing with this for much longer. So here we are at the first stage of redefinition. It's where being like your old self feels like a burden than it does a blessing. You're slowly climbing this roller coaster to the top, dreading the fall that will follow. It gets worse before it gets better. You see, not only was I Black and a woman in America, I now fell under the immigrant category as well. And in the land of hope, equality, and the American dream, according to Business Insider, the wage gap between Black and white America is 62%. And Black people are 3 times as likely to get shot by the police. So this dream quickly started to feel like a lonely nightmare. And the metaphorical glass ceilings felt more like concrete boxes. But here we are at stage 2, learning our new environment and figuring out the common grounds and the differences. On this part of the ride, we've opened our eyes now, but we are gripping the handlebars for dear life, looking at all the upcoming loops and turns. My loneliness made me even more aware of how different I was, how much I didn't fit in. And for a while, that was all I was focused on and less concerned about what was the same. I felt stuck. But moving forward requires moving differently. So I had to adjust to this new space I was in. In this stage, I became very familiar with stereotyping. No, I did not live in a coconut tree. And no, I did not personally know Usain Bolt or Bob Marley. And for the longest time, no, I did not watch Cool Runnings on purpose. You see, stereotypes are simply mental shortcuts that our brains take in order to do less thinking when dealing with a previous experience. Our brains are pretty lazy when it comes to repetitive things and love a good shortcut, hence habits. However, what's easy on the brain can be extremely damaging to the person on the receiving end, to the extent that it could even cost them their lives. Many Black people and immigrants have been on the receiving end of negative stereotyping. It's an unfortunate norm. Stereotyping can lead to discrimination, microaggressions, imposter syndrome, lost opportunities. You get the picture. It's all not very pleasant. How could I find myself in this new place if no one even wanted to stop and understand where I was coming from? What was the point if everybody already had their ideas as to who I was? When was the last time you stopped and learned the real culture of another place and not just the characters you see on screen or hear about from other people? But alas, the winds changed. Actually, I just adjusted my sails. Eventually, I realized that despite the many differences and the stereotyping, there's always common ground to be found. The love of family, sports, pursuit of happiness and success, shared hobbies. Some people, you have to show them that you are not like everyone else that shares the same race or status as you, and they usually become a little bit more understanding. But this usually takes open dialogue and a willingness to learn. However, some people had to make peace with the fact that they wouldn't change their minds. So I had to be who I wanted to be regardless. I adjusted. So at this point in the ride, I know that old Ashley won't cut it, and I'm a little bit more aware of this new space I am in. So far, it's not very friendly, but there's hope. So what parts of old Ashley would I keep? What new things would I like to add? And what things did I now feel like throwing out? Here we are at the final stage of redefinition, deciding how exactly we will be defined differently. On this part of the ride, we've thrown our hands up, and we trust that we will not fly out. We've adjusted, and we try to enjoy it as much as possible. I had a really hard time figuring out who Ashley would be in this new environment. I fought with old cultural norms and new ways of thinking and living that I was just now being exposed to. A small but major thing, changing my accent whenever I spoke to Americans so that they would understand me better. It felt like I was losing a part of who I was as a Jamaican. Let me give you an example. You'd say, Wagwan, where you depon? But now that turned into, hi, how have you been? See, I was still very proud of my heritage, but I wanted to fit in, but be myself at the same time. Talk about a paradox. You see, like I said, talk about a paradox. You see, humans have always wanted to be accepted by whatever tribe they're a part of, since the beginning of humanity. But they also know how important it is to be different enough to stand out and to be a leader. The most freeing remedy to this confusion was simply allowing myself to be anything that I wanted to be. It's a simple thing that you are probably holding yourself back from doing. You think everyone knows me as this person, so it's easier to just stay that way. But if you're uncomfortable and feeling those first stage emotions, it's time to hit everybody with a plot twist, including yourself. Because at any second, you can decide to be a completely different person by changing your beliefs or changing your actions. Sometimes that's just deciding not to accept certain things anymore, or decide that thing that everyone says doesn't suit you can fit just right if you let it. It's your life. I had to determine what my values were, those things that wouldn't change regardless of where I was, because moving forward doesn't always mean leaving everything behind. I had to accept that I was different, and instead of feeling bad about it, I now embrace it. But this was by no means easy. I had to accept myself first. This was the only way to keep moving forward and not feel stuck in the isolation that comes with newness. So you're not an immigrant. Why should you care? Because the roller coaster ride that I just described is actually happening to all of us in a never-ending cycle. Life is constantly throwing us new loops and curves and turns, and just when we get comfortable enough to let go of those handlebars, something unexpected happens, the discomfort returns, restarting the cycle. This ride is lifelong and unpredictable. Every time you step into a new career, a new place, a new stage in your life, you have to redefine who you are in order to not get stuck in your old ways of thinking. New problems require new thinking and a new you. It's the only way for you to keep moving forward. You have to be a different person than you were yesterday, today. To my fellow immigrants, I feel you. I understand the struggle. Figure out what part of the process you're in and what needs to change in order for you to keep moving forward. You belong here. My roller coaster took me to the highs of writing my own book and graduating with a 4.0, almost. Many job offers, multiple positions of leadership, and being able to use my platform to inspire those around me. But most importantly, it allowed me to earn the feeling that I do belong in any room that I choose to be in. Growth is uncomfortable and nonlinear, but you have to be determined to accept yourself and make the best out of every situation. The roller coaster goes up and it goes down, but don't allow yourself to be boxed in. Thank you.